So, are we ready to get going with question number 1?
So, we're pleased that you're focusing on public transport, and it's a bit of a nightmare for you, especially in the face of a climate emergency. Are you planning to bring it back into public control? And million-dollar question, do you think you can make services more reliable? Because it's a real issue for older people and vulnerable people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and it's my favourite subject, buses, so I'm really pleased. Firstly, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. It means a great deal. I love Calderdale, I love the Peace Hall, and you are small but mighty, and you really are punching as a region and delivering, and fantastic leadership at the helm with amazing councillors, so I'm really delighted to be here. So, buses. I'm a bus user myself. I commute on the trains, I use the buses, and I know, like you, that they're basically not fit for purpose. We have had a really fractured landscape with buses being run by different companies. We have First, we have Arriva, we have Transdev, doing different routes, different pricing, different ticketing. If you got off a First bus and you got on a Transdev, you'd have to pay again. You couldn't use your ticket because it's 2 different buses. And 2 different operating companies. It just wasn't working. So I think it was probably the 3rd week or the few weeks into my mayoralty, we started the process to look at public control, because it just isn't working when it's working only for profit. And certainly post-COVID, we've seen the bus companies taking decisions about routes that weren't profitable and cutting those routes, and actually isolating huge communities across West Yorkshire who, when we have the lowest car ownership in the whole of the UK, it seems, and well, definitely in the north, 70%, so many people use buses. 80% of those who use public transport use buses. Buses are where most people get about, and there were communities completely cut off. So we've gone through a really complex process that's been a governmental time frame, and March the 14th I'll be making the decision whether we go to full public ownership or whether we have an enhanced partnership plus. Now, the work that we've been doing, we have come to a conclusion that franchising is the best option. But we have gone to the public, and I'm going to be looking back at the feedback, and we're going to have a meeting of consultation, and I'll be making the decision March the 14th, so watch this space. Because the way that you grow our economy, and this is really important to me, that West Yorkshire is an amazing region, but actually we're punching below our weight when it comes to the economy and the opportunities that our young people get. We have to tackle transport. I've just been at Transport for the North over in Liverpool, and again on another platform, talking about how broken our transport system is and how underfunded for decades the North has been. Now, the mayors can get together, and with our combined voice we can make we can get into those rooms, talk to government and say we need a better deal. But here on the ground, the buses are not working. Everywhere I go, people are telling me that there are ghost buses, cancellations, and so on. So what have I done whilst we've been doing all of that? We were the first in the north, well, the first in the country, to bring in the £2 capped fare, the single fare. We were the first in the country to have the 450 day saver, and that tackles something that's really close to my heart, because it's any bus, any operator, any route in West Yorkshire, any number of times on the bus. So women walk more than men, but they also use buses more for shorter journeys. So I believe this is about equality as well, that women and carers often use buses more because they go to do the school run, then they go to work, then maybe they go to their second job, then they pick up the kids, then they go to maybe care for their parent, then maybe they take the kids swimming. All of this adds up when it comes to fares. The 450 day saver is really important. But we were also able to bid into a governmental pot called the Bus Service Improvement Plan, 77 million. And we've been using that for the Mayor's Fairs. But also, I know that the cuts to these routes are impacting on our communities. So we've been reintroducing routes that you've told me that you need across West Yorkshire. But that is not the solution in the long term. So that's why we're going to be making that decision. And I'm speaking to the government. You cannot say that investing in buses is a subsidy. It is an investment in the future of our young people and our communities. We have to be better connected.
And Tracy, just to interrupt you are passionate about the transit, aren't you? Mass transit
Indeed.
system. When will that become a reality for people?
So, buses are one part of the jigsaw. We in West Yorkshire don't have a mass transit tram system. If you go to Manchester, you'll see it. If you go to Birmingham, you'll see it. So we will have spades in the ground by 2028 on mass transit, not just for Leeds, but Leeds, Bradford, Leeds, Wakefield, Leeds, Kirklees and out to Calderdale through phasing over the years. And that mass transit will also then be connected to the buses. We will have that integrated transport plan that you see in European countries, because it is not right that in European countries of the size that we are, that 7 out of 10 of the citizens can access the city centre in half an hour. In West Yorkshire, in the north, it is 4 out of 10 can access the city centre in half an hour. We are missing massive opportunities. So transport is a real passion of mine. It is incredibly exciting for our region. We've got the TransPennine upgrade, we've got mass transit, we've got the revolution in buses, but also we're investing in cycling and walking as well. So it is, you know, it's a real opportunity through devolution and having a mayor that we can have that vision. But it isn't a vision only I share, because you've told me exactly what I need to do, because you are also as sick of it as I am, that you can't get to work, you can't get to jobs, you can't get to training, and that young people are choosing a college where they can get to, not the college they want to go to, because transport's so poor.
Thanks, Tracy. Well, we'll move on.
I told you I could speak about buses all night.
Yes, it's your specialist subject. I'm talking
mastermind subject.
Talking of buses and transport, it leads us nicely on to the next question, because we're talking about climate emergency. So, have we got Finn in the audience? If Finn White could stand up, we'll bring him. Lovely. Thank you, Finn.
Yeah, so my question is, how can you, as Mayor of West Yorkshire, contribute to West Yorkshire tackling the climate emergency and reach net zero? Thank you.
Finn, thank you for that question. Can I just ask, are you at college?
Yeah, at Greenhead College.
At Greenhead. I saw today that you have 27 of your students and your peers going to Oxbridge.
Yeah.
27 this year alone. I mean, let's hear it for Greenhead. So the climate emergency. We know the climate emergency is real. That's why we as a region have said we're going to get to net zero by 2038. So the government target is 2050, our target is 2038. That is going to be really tough. We know that the percentage of those emissions are from transport. That is why mass transit and buses are so important, and also walking and cycling, really, really important. However, the people of Calderdale have suffered actually more than most in West Yorkshire because of the fallout from climate change. Hebden Bridge, Mytholmroyd, the valley, as Jane mentioned, the valley draws water from the hills, and because of the climate emergency, you are seeing what used to be once in a generation catastrophe. It's now every 2 years, seemingly. And businesses are being washed away, homes are being washed away, and people are not being able to get insurance because of the regularity of the flooding. So, as Mayor, I have an opportunity to do some mitigations. So we've just announced, it was a couple of months ago, 22 million, and a big chunk of that is going to go on flood defences. But also we have to stop the water further upstream. Water knows no boundaries, and that's why you have a brilliant programme here. I'm sure you all know it's Slow to Flow. catching water upstream, slowing it with leaky dams to make sure that water is more controlled. But also it is about energy, that we have to also go green. So that's why I committed to 1,000 green jobs for young people. I'm pleased that we're at 1,047, and there's nearly 100 of those green jobs were pledged here in Calderdale. So thank you to the businesses of Calderdale identifying those green jobs and those opportunities. The Green Jobs Task Force, there was businesses that helped me identify where we could find those jobs, have found that the task force has been really good for them as a business, because they've met people they would never meet and actually share solutions with each other, with different businesses and different types of business. We are also making sure that business is an ally and helping businesses with a £10 million pot to green processes. So whether that's a new boiler, whether that's different types of lighting, insulation, to say we match fund your ambitions to go green, because you'll save money on your electricity bill, your energy bills, but also you'll help me in my hitting that target. But this is not just about me, and it's not just about business, it's also about you as communities. And that's why we've allocated a chunk of money, £50,000, to say to communities, tell us what you need. You can apply for, whether that's tree planting, whether that's, I'm obsessed by water butts. I think every house should have a water butt, but then we decided it would be called Brabin's Butts. And we thought maybe that would be a bad idea. But the opportunity for you as communities to tell us what you need, and whether that's we're working with schools and community centres and all our bus stations to make sure we've got solar panels that will then feed back to the grid. We're doing everything that's within our gift, but fundamentally we need certainty, and you've seen a government unsure of itself, because you'll say one thing, EV vehicles by deadline, you say one thing about HS2 and getting freight off the road and onto the train and tackle the climate emergency, and then you pull the handbrake on that. You say one thing about, it was only today, about businesses having to show how many ground source heat pumps that they're producing, and then now there's a relaxation of those rules, which gives confusion to businesses. So we are, well, I am hoping for a change at the top, because businesses are telling me we don't know what to do, so we're not moving forward because there's no clarity. But thank you for your interest in it. Is there anything that you think I should be doing that I'm not doing? Because Finn, I need to hear from you. You are the future.
I don't know if there's anything particular. I just think carrying on and doing something. I do have a question about what you just said, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, come back.
So you were talking about the government sort of changing their mind on certain things like HS2 and the electric vehicle stuff. I agree with you about that. Were you therefore disappointed to see Keir Starmer rolling back on the 28 billion investment in green jobs?
If I could say, I don't think it was a rolling back. I think the problem was putting a number on it has made it a target for the Labour Party. We absolutely, I mean, everybody has a different view in this room, and I respect everybody's politics, but there will be a consensus about the chaos. So many different prime ministers, different chancellors. Chaos is no good for the country. I have had conversations with the shadow front bench, and everybody knows that the way we build growth is through the green economy, because we are in the north, we are the home of manufacturing. We know that the Industrial Revolution was part of the climate change crisis. We are part of the problem. We are now the solution. And actually, the sort of number really doesn't matter, because what really matters is certainty and focus and delivery. So we keep talking about projects in the north, and the Network North, the government are giving us so much money for rail. Actually, the numbers really don't matter. What we need is determination from the centre to actually deliver. And I believe that mayors working together across the north, whether that's Steve Rotherham's Tidal in Liverpool, or whether that's Hull and the Humber, or whether that's up to the northeast and carbon capture or carbon storage. Collectively, we have a plan, and we're working, and on international trade missions we talk about that green corridor across the north that is the future of growth, because it's green jobs, investment in retrofit. That's one of our biggest programs is the Better Homes Hub, retrofitting the many tens of thousands social homes that we've got to do. We need a workforce, that's good jobs, that's how you grow the economy.
For 20 years, I have countless times come to this part of the world, Hebden Bridge, Mythe and Royd, flooding.
Yeah.
And just last year, at the end of last year, was doing that in South Yorkshire, which is, and people all the time hear people in the authority and saying, you know, we're doing stuff for you, it won't happen again. Are you optimistic that, you know, people in this room will see a day where they're not going to have their houses flooding, or more is done, you know, to stop it happening? Because it's devastating, is it, for years?
But Lottie, it's not see a day. I mean, I was in Mythe and Royd, and that project that was funded by us and the Environment Agency and Calderdale were part of it, that has changed people's lives. And people were almost at this, it was an amazing thing in a community centre, and people were almost crying at the change in their lives and their future, because the massive flood defences across the river have meant that they could be at ease. And I can't imagine the impact on your mental health whenever it rains and you don't have those flood defences. You're watching the weather, you're listening to see if there's an alert on your phone, you're checking have I got my sandbags. The stress levels and the inability to grow a business or you know, think I'm going to be here for the, you know, I'm going to settle my family here because I'm not sure, I'm not sure if I'm going to be washed away. Mythe and Royd is an example, Lottie, of actually delivery and the transformation that money and that investment, and it was an eye-watering amount of money, but for that community, for the long term, it was worth every penny.
So, Tracy, this is from Brown. Why are significant funds allocated to Leeds, Bradford and Huddersfield, many in central Halifax, particularly those in marginalised communities, like essential programmes? So Brown's pointed out things for lower income families, as well as individuals with restricted incomes like asylum seekers and refugees. Basically, a lot is going to Leeds and Halifax and Calderdale can feel a bit left out, like a poor relation.
Thank you so much for that question. I would just gently push back on that question, because I really don't feel that the inequity, you feel an inequity, but my job as mayor is to have growth across the whole of the region. So we need a thriving Leeds. We do. We need an amazing Leeds. We need an amazing Bradford. We need to have a magnet for investment. So in Leeds, we have one of the biggest financial services sectors outside of Edinburgh and London. Those jobs are level 4 jobs. They attract a particular type of workforce. They're well paid. They're invested in our region. But there are people who live in Calderdale where the beautiful quality of life who work in Leeds. So my job is to make sure that there is connectivity between regions. However, I also have the gift of universality. So being able to say, at the launch of our Fair Work Charter, businesses across the whole of our region, come in, the water's lovely, sign up to this Fair Work Charter. And the key to that Fair Work Charter is the real living wage. Because we cannot grow Calderdale if people are being paid great salaries in Leeds, but poor salaries in Calderdale and Halifax, and there is less money in people's pockets. So being able to say to all businesses, you get involved in this project, we will help you and support you to help you pay that real living wage. I can also say, we are going to widen eligibility for free training for level 2 and 3, not just to those on the minimum wage, which is the government guidelines, but to those on the real living wage. So that meant 2,000 more learners had an opportunity to put money in their pockets with a better paid job because they had more qualifications. And to your point about refugees, I would say to anybody in the room that works with refugees, and I know that Calderdale is a region of sanctuary. Thank you for what you do. Refugees are a gift to our region. When you think about the Irish Catholics, when you think about the South Asian weavers, when you think about the Windrush generation that came over to work in our NHS, we are better for refugees. I have a series of programs supporting refugee organisations and groups. There's a great football team in Huddersfield, and there's a wonderful group of people that have volunteered to work with that football team to show them Huddersfield, talk to them about our history, our heritage, what it means to be from Yorkshire, and to support them in their assimilation into our region. But I want to just say, if you feel that there is less coming in, then I have a job of work to do, that I am not communicating well enough the work that's going on in Calderdale, because I want to reassure you that our investment into your region is not per head, because that's not the way necessarily things work out, because it's project by project, and each local authority has funding based on the population, but also on need, and need for particular things. So Jane will maybe will need something around transport, but that means Calderdale gets it and Leeds don't get something that they wanted. So we are teaming and ladling resources. But if I'm just going to come to Alison, my Deputy Mayor, because also what is important is that communities feel safe. And I don't feel that necessarily you feel you're getting your fair share if you don't feel safe in your community. So I wonder, Alison, if you could talk about maybe the Mayor's Community Safety Fund and the work that that does to support community.
First of all, I should say that the Mayor's Safer Communities Fund has funded St Augustine's here in Calderdale, several projects. I just came a couple of weeks ago to have a look at the new fence that the Mayor partly funded, and we have a great relationship with that organisation, and hopefully we'll continue to do so. But the Mayor's Safer Communities Fund is a pot of money that the Mayor offers out 2, sometimes 3 times a year, and the money comes from West Yorkshire Police, finding money from the criminals, so it's proceeds of Crime Act monies. We're just about this week to give out £1 million, so on Wednesday, and I'm hoping that there'll be lots of organisations here in Calderdale who will benefit from that money. In fact, I know that there are organisations in Calderdale that will benefit. And the whole purpose of that money is that grassroots organisations will be part of the solution in terms of keeping communities safe. The bidders have to use the Mayor's Police and Crime Plan, which is the document that we co-produced with the people of West Yorkshire to say what are your priorities. But it's also got 3 golden threads: violence against women and girls, eliminating that; equality, diversity and inclusion, which obviously means all our communities feeling safe and having the right to feel safe; and then early intervention and prevention. So organisations here in Calderdale can definitely bid for this money. So the next pot will be available from May. We don't know how much money that will be yet, because it's all down to West Yorkshire Police bringing in that proceeds of Crime Act monies. But when we get it, anyone who's interested, my colleague Sharon is at the back, and she will take your details, and we'll send out a link with the opportunity to bid. But I should just say that, you know, my dad came on Windrush, and I'm really keen that with the inclusivity champion Fatima Khan-Shah, we show the people of West Yorkshire that we are inclusive, we're proud to be inclusive, and we will do everything we can to make sure that everyone says this is a safe, just, inclusive community, and that I'm involved too.
Thank you so much, Alison.
Tracy, I just wanted to say, because you know that's a fantastic scheme that you're doing. I think a lot of people, because of inflation, cost of living, we're all feeling a bit downtrodden at the moment, aren't we? And we're seeing that a lot of our authorities are skint, or they're making cuts. So is there a way that the combined authority can do more or provide more? I think they're probably going to turn to you more, aren't they? Because things are so tight.
And honestly, we are doing everything in our power to help our local authorities, and we were able to identify a reserve fund of 51 million that we could then give back to our partners. We are very critically aware that capacity is really stretched in local authorities, that there are positions that are left vacant because of the funding cuts. We are able to identify capacity funding. There's another 15 million that was just passed through our combined authority last week. It is really important to keep our local authorities able to cope. But the part of this problem, and to the gentleman's point about how you feel, is because we have had to bid in to beauty contests for funding pots of money, and the government has then said, oh, actually, we don't want that project. So, for example, Calderdale bid and got money for from the Levelling Up Fund for a new leisure centre, but then because of inflation, it was increasingly difficult to deliver that leisure centre. Bradford, I think it was £600,000 it cost them to get a really great bid for Odsal Stadium regeneration, and they didn't win a penny. So this idea that we have to just beg for the crumbs off the table is for the birds, and that's why I am making the case that we have to have that single settlement, so we can identify where that gentleman says, you know, I need resources for this particular project, or I feel this area needs regeneration, and we can do it, and it will actually save us money, that we don't have to keep bidding into the beauty contest. But I think everybody in this room, if you have asked a question or you don't want to ask a question, but there is something that you feel that you need, you just come to me at the end, sir, and we can have a conversation about what you feel is missing, and then we can start to talk about how we can make that happen. Because I can't do this job on my own. You're the eyes and ears, you live in the community, you can tell me what's needed. But the beauty contest, we've got to get rid of those. And that's why working with a really great effort from the team at Combined Authority, working with other mayoral teams as well, we've got a level 4 devolution deal that we're just negotiating with government that gives us a bit more wiggle room, a bit more autonomy on levelling up funds and transport. But that is just not the extent of our ambitions. We want a single settlement. Give us the money and we can spend it efficiently, we can deliver on time and on budget, with better outcomes for the people of our region. Not those decision makers in Whitehall and Westminster that don't know us, that are wasting money hand over fist. We know the value and the price of things. Give us the money and we can deliver.
Right, well, let's move on to something that is in a lot of people's minds at the moment, especially the future generations, and that is digital and tech. So have we got Jim in the audience? Jim, will you stand up? Thanks, Jim. Jim, just wait for the microphone, please. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Good evening. So I work for a digital consultancy here in Halifax and digital. We're relaunching the Halifax Digital Festival in this May, and it's going to be an open event where we're going to celebrate all things digital, make sure it's really inclusive. What support can you give to local businesses in Calderdale to promote technology and digital? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your leadership and your digital festival. It sounds amazing. Please, can I come?
Yes.
It sounds great. We know that, as I was talking about transport, it isn't just about trains, buses, is it? It's about connectivity, so that making sure that businesses like yourself don't have to be in Leeds, that you can be in a rural location or in the centre of Halifax and have a fantastic digital offer. We've got a digital skills plan, 7.5 million. That's coming to the end of the project. But what's really important to me, and where I think I can be helpful, is to ensure that everybody in West Yorkshire has the digital skills they need. Too many people don't have digital skills for life. They can't set up an email, they can't attach a document, they can't operate on their phone to go through to government departments. And increasingly, there is now a digital exclusion, isn't there? That there are too many people that just can't function in today's world. That's why we've set up and it should be launched very soon. It's young people, it's those disadvantaged youngsters, kids of colour, diverse young people, and kids with a disability that may not get those opportunities to learn those skills. It's based on a great scheme in London called Ada, after Ada Lovelace, and is primarily young women, teaching them the skills, but primarily giving them the work experience, because on a CV you can have all the qualifications you like really to some degree, but if you've got work experience you really do stand out. So for me that's really important when it comes to digital skills. But I've also got the Mayor's Innovation Festival. I wanted to have a digital festival, but Leeds were annoyed because they have a lot of attention on Leeds Digital Festival, so we couldn't name West Yorkshire. But I'm very pleased that you're doing it, and wouldn't it be great if we could link up all of the regional, our local authority patches, digital festivals, to have them all on the same day, or the same week, and really be firing on all cylinders. But it's really important for me to make sure that you have the workforce you need, but also that individuals can access jobs and opportunities because they've got their digital skills. But Sarah, as head of strategy, we talk about this a lot. I wonder if there's anything you'd like to add.
I just think we're just about to launch some work around a digital blueprint, and I think obviously that is looking to the future to build another work that we've already kind of undertaken. There's been a really good scheme that's been running in Leeds called 100% Digital, and we're planning to kind of roll that out across the region. So I can take some details after and provide you with more information about that blueprint work that we're about to take forward, if that's helpful.
Jim, just putting that together in Halifax, what's the response like? Is it very positive and you're getting loads of people, or do they sometimes think, oh, we should go to Leeds, or how do you find it working in digital tech in Calderdale?
I think it's really positive, and there's so many benefits to having a business in Calderdale, in Halifax, over having that business in Leeds. We can attract a different talent pool, a different diverse workforce. It's a great place to live and work, and a lot of this is around how do we attract, retain and retrain people in the region as well. So there's a real focus for us to really bring that focus on Halifax and Calderdale in much the same way that Leeds has with its own digital festival. We're not trying to be that, we're trying to be something different that's more suitable for this region, really inclusive, and helps to grow businesses in this region.
Yeah, I think that point is well made. Dean Clough is incredible, isn't it? What an amazing magnet to really big businesses. Is it Covia? What they call? Covia. The big insurance business. I've had a fantastic visit there, and the majority of the workforce are local, and that's fantastic. But also, to your point about graduates, we have our fantastic universities and FE colleges, and we have a good graduate retention, 52%, but we could really do more. And I think COVID has focused people's mind about quality of life, and what a beautiful place to live in Calderdale. It's a really attractive place. That's why that gigabit, that connectivity is really important to have that fantastic live-work balance.
Fabulous. And just a general living in Calderdale, I know you're all different parts of this gorgeous area, but how do you find your Wi-Fi and connectivity? Is it good, having a business or just at home? Do you find it reliable? Because you find in some rural communities that it's just so hit and miss, isn't it? But you all look very pleased with it anyway. Lovely. So we'll move on now to Angela, who is in the crowd. Angela, if you just stand up, please, and just wait for the microphone, and then we'd love to hear your question to Tracy. Thank you.
Hi there, Angela Edson. I'm the Chief Executive of Women's Sector.
Oh,
so
hello.
Not surprisingly, I'm asking a question about women. So I've taken the start of my question from a report that was commissioned by three big organisations, the Esme Fairburn Foundation, the Lottery, and also Rosa. So this is what was in the report, and the question will follow. In 2021, a total of 4.1 billion worth of grants was awarded to charities, but the women and girls sector received just 1.8% of these. In addition, 1/3 of all grants for women and girls focused activity worth 24.7 million, went to organisations with no specific focus on women and girls. This shows a worrying lack of priority for organisations tackling complex and systemic issues faced by women and girls in the UK. So my question is this. Please can I ask how the West Yorkshire Mayor will ensure that this is not the case for women's organisations in West Yorkshire? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And can I thank you for the work that you do? It's amazing and life-changing. So, as the Mayor, and as the only female Metro Mayor in the country, and as a woman with lived experience, there are many women in this room, I'm sure you have lived experience of either sexual violence or harassment or whatever, I made it my mission to put the safety of women and girls at the heart of my police and crime plan. Luckily, my amazing Deputy Mayor also felt the same. So together, I think we're sort of Thelma and Louise in this mission.
But we're not dying.
We're not dying. But we have really focused on the safety of women and girls. So I don't recognise those figures for our region. We have a number of schemes. In fact, I often go to meetings where there is the pushback that actually you're spending too much on women and girls, and where are the services for men and boys? Our stalking advocacy service, for example, stalking is on the timeline of femicide. Most femicides have stalking as an early element. Stalking is called the slow death. Now, in West Yorkshire, our police didn't issue, I felt, enough stalking prevention orders, which means that somebody that is stalking someone is then told that they can't come within a radius or whatever. So being able to speak to West Yorkshire Police and say, this, you have to look at this, but alongside it, I was aware that people were struggling with this on their own. And it wasn't just in person, it was online, the abuse was relentless, and the fear was real. So setting up the Stalking Advocacy Service, and we've over 1,000 referrals since last October. Now, if one woman has been supported through the service to be free of stalking that could have ended up in her death, then we're doing, you know, a really good thing. But the focus also on victims of domestic violence and sexual assault has been relentless, and we are sort of an innovative region, and it's great that West Yorkshire Police are coming with us on this journey. We're setting up the Safety of Women and Girls Unit with Dame Louise Casey. We have for the first ever conviction of someone using smart water in a domestic violence situation. So a stalking protection order, if that's broken, it would usually be he said, she said. And the smart water is DNA spray, and it stays on your skin and your clothes for 3 months. So it stops the he said, she said, and we have the evidence. And we have now had the first conviction using smart water. We are trying wherever we can to have innovations. But when it comes to the funding, I mean, maybe I'll turn to you, Alison, regarding the funding, because the Mayor's Community Safety Fund also funds programmes for the safety of women and girls. We have invested in the safety app on the M-Card app on your phone when you go on a bus. You can tell us where you feel unsafe. We are funding the training of police community safety officers through our apprenticeship levy. So now we have 15 PCSOs dedicated to safety on the buses and in bus stations, because women were telling us they didn't feel safe. So it's not just investment in women's organisations, it's investment in other things around that to make sure that women and girls are safe, because when women and girls are safe, everybody is safe. But Alison, about the funding.
Yeah, I mean, Tracy obviously knows better than I do about stuff that's not policing, so she has got lots of money that she makes sure she's got a target to benefit women, BME groups, people with disabilities, which you forgot to say, but I know that you've got those programmes because you tell me about them and they're amazing. But in terms of policing and crime, the Mayor has got £14 million that she spends each year. We've just developed a new commissioning strategy which sets out the principles around our commissioning, and local is at the heart of that plan. We don't want to give money to national organisations with chief execs in London when we can give to local organisations operating here in West Yorkshire. So that's at the heart. It's got to be legal because of all the ESF, all the European rules of course, but we want to make sure that we give money locally first and foremost. Because of the focus on eliminating violence against women and girls, the Mayor has been able to be innovative about how she's used some of that money. So the stalking advocacy services won such £425,000 to set that service up. And whilst it's for everybody, so men, women, trans, non-binary people can access that service, 97% of people who have actually accessed that service have been women, including trans women. Similarly, even though we've got a victim support service that costs £1.6 million every year, open to any victim of crime, the vast majority of people who have accessed that service, about 90, of the 91,000, about 90% of those people who have accessed the service have been women, including trans women. So we are funding services for everyone, but we're also making sure that they are inclusive enough for women and girls to feel that it's safe for them. But I also want to say that even though women are more likely to experience sexual violence, rape, I'm a victim myself, a survivor now, the data is telling us that men are more likely to experience violence, especially out on the street. 2 to 1, more men outside will experience violence, and we want to make sure that men and boys also feel that our services are for them too. 7 out of 10 murders, the victim is male, and we need to ensure that everybody in our community of West Yorkshire feels that the Mayor is here for them. So we are unashamedly proud that we have commissioned a report into the needs of men and boys here in West Yorkshire. The recommendations have been consulted on with organisations working with men and boys, and we're going to be using the powers that the Mayor has got to convene all the agencies together to help to embed those recommendations in the organisations that we work with, because West Yorkshire is for everyone. And we want to make sure that everyone in West Yorkshire feels that that's the case.
Just very quickly, just about men and boys, that we also need the men in this room to be with us as allies on this journey. So we funded a video to address male behaviour change called Just Don't, #JustDon't, and over 3.5 million people that have seen that video. And I say often what was really startling was the comments underneath the video when it was posted. 86% of women have experienced sexual harassment in public, and women were commenting, this statistic is wrong, it must be 100%, because that is my experience. So we have a job of work to do, and working with the amazing women and allies at the head of this organisation, I think we can be a game changer. I don't see other MCAs, other mayors focusing us in the same way about violence against women and girls. But why not? Because your lived experience is your superpower. And if you have that experience and you know what needs to be done, I think it's a gift to be able to make some change. So whilst there are green shoots of change, I want West Yorkshire to be the safest place to be a woman or a girl, and it might feel naive, but if we have that as a target, what have we got to lose if we work towards it?
And a business question.
Good evening. I run a business in Leeds, and I'm seeing a lot of growth, development and business opportunities, and as well as commercial spaces being created daily. Leeds city centre is just changing every minute. But with all the new job opportunities being created, how are we ensuring that the young people of West Yorkshire are getting the opportunities to secure these new professional roles and vacancies?
What a great question.
Yeah,
so fun. You tell me, what's the difficulty with the business? Can you not recruit?
No, we have a recruitment business in central London as well, but recruitment's not the issue. For me, I'm very passionate about helping young people get to where they need to. You know, my story wasn't an easy one, but with support, mentors, and guidance, I managed to get where I am. So it's very important for me and my business partners to be able to offer the same thing. And what we're finding is, in the past we've worked with, for example, training skills providers to help people get those qualifications as well as get some experience in the workplace. But a lot of training skills providers don't see the benefit in 16 to 19 anymore because there's no funding. So now we have to go out there, grassroots, speak to schools. I went to Leeds City Council today to speak to the Pathways team about getting kids in for mentoring. And I'm just feeling like we had 30 kids come through every single month, and we get really great results for them. Working destinations, off to universities, just being able to walk into a great office, see the environment and think, oh, I can do this, and be given the toolkit to actually go out and get those results. But now it's dried up, and business is great for us, we're making profit. However, for me, I want to be able to give back like others gave to me. So what are we doing in order to facilitate that?
Well, I didn't know you before, but I think you're going to be my best friend, because it sounds like you've really got a vision for dropping the ladder for others. And I know there are organisations across the region that are doing similar things. PwC they've got a great phrase, which is, we want to be the window where people can see themselves reflected, but also can see through to a better future. And working with businesses like yourself, let's have a further conversation. We've got a Future Goals website, which is actually, it had 2.5 million hits, I think, in the last year. It's won loads of awards for how easy it is to use. I want devolved powers over careers. I want a 5-star gold-plated careers service, because our young people deserve nothing less. And it's too fractured at the moment. And it's, sometimes it's your PE teacher delivering careers that might not know about businesses. Bringing businesses into schools and giving them those opportunities. What's really important to me, though, is that inclusion and that EDI lens. So working with our brilliant schools team, we've got a really great programme that's launching in June, which is a reverse careers session, where it's actually the young people sat at the tables and they are interviewing the businesses. Are you going to be right for me because I have a disability? What type of business are you? How inclusive are you? Because I know that diversity helps businesses. They're more resilient to economic shocks. They do better. They're more attractive for recruitment, and so on. And that's why the targets really matter to me. So when we're giving out funding, and Alison alluded to it, for example, West Yorkshire, Enterprise West Yorkshire, an entrepreneurship fund of £6 million, we set the target 50% to women, 20% to people of colour, 10% to those with a disability. The Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, the same targets, young people get work experience in film and TV, but those furthest away from those great jobs. The last cohort of 80, 43% self-declared as having a disability, but 50% of the cohort went into film and TV. It is having your hands on the levers of power, working with good businesses like yourself, that we can make a change. But I wonder, Fatima, if I could come to you about the inclusion angle, and then Ben, I'll come to you if I may. Fatima.
Evening, Calderdale. So my name is Fatima Khansha, and I am proud to be your first ever West Yorkshire Inclusivity Champion. And as a descendant of South Asian weavers, now reporting to one of the highest offices of West Yorkshire and the first female Metro Mayor, I think I am one of the embodiments of social mobility and the art of the possible. But in answer to the question about inclusion, I think you're absolutely right. There are a range of mechanisms by which we need to ensure that the organisations and decision-making forums of West Yorkshire are reflective of the people it serves. That isn't just by ethnicity, it's by gender. So going back to your point, one of the things that we are working on in regards to our aspiration of a diverse leadership is the Women of West Yorkshire Network. It's a network that currently has 360 members, and we're still recruiting, so come and play. It's open to women and allies. And it's an aspirational network for women from all walks of life to come together to support each other on a variety of agendas. It could be a social movement to influence change. For example, we're coming together on the 8th of March, which is International Women's Day, to talk about the important agenda of women's health, because my role is something that is shared across local government and the health and care system, and we know that women's experience of health is not what it should be, and quite often their health outcomes are lesser than those of their male counterparts. Another area we raise ethnicity, so we know that actually our leadership in our decision-making forums, whether that's in the public sector or in the health and care sector, are not reflective of the people of West Yorkshire, and yet we're determining and making decisions on behalf of those populations, not with an agenda to perpetuate inequality, but actually because we don't have the insight of their lived experience or that cultural competence, we're perpetuating the inequalities, which means their outcomes are worse. So what we're trying to do, and what my role is set up to do, and I haven't got time to talk about it for very long, I'll talk about it all day, I'd give Tracy a run for her money, I'll tell you that much, is to make sure that every decision we take in West Yorkshire is through the lens of either inclusion or health or both. Because people in West Yorkshire want three things. They want someone to love, something to do, and somewhere to live. And our aspiration is to make West Yorkshire the place that no matter where you come from, you end up in the best place possible and that you fulfil your potential. That includes children and young people that may not want to go the usual mechanisms and educational routes. And it also means people that are neurodiverse or people that have got accessibility issues that need that adjustment just to make life a bit easier. So let's have a chat afterwards and I can talk you through a little bit more about what we're up to in West Yorkshire. But going back to your point about women, it isn't just safety that we're concerned about. It's about making sure that women are represented in all elements of life that impact them and have the ability to change and influence it in a positive way, not only for this generation but for future generations.
Just to answer your question about what's currently on offer. So the Combined Authority already runs a programme that connects business volunteers with secondary school pupils, and that programme is about raising aspirations so that people can consider what the world of work is like and consider careers in that. So we're already at kind of over 160 secondary schools across West Yorkshire. There's a lot more to do, but the kind of research indicates that the more kind of meaningful connections are made between pupils in school and the world of work, the more likely they are they raise their aspirations. So we're hoping to do more of that. I think raising people's aspirations beyond their locality and to think about employment elsewhere across West Yorkshire is still a real challenge.
If I may say, what I think is the key to social mobility, and it's just one phrase, the people you know. And don't we know with middle class kids that they know the right people because they went on holiday with them when they were little. We have to make sure that kids on the estate where I grew up know more people who can help them. So you are somebody that can help those kids.
Hi Tracy. My question is about climate emergency, but about pollution in the air. We live in Soby Bridge and it's a very polluted area because of the traffic, and the council backed an incinerator to be built in Greenbelt, and local residents got together and crowdfunded a judicial review, and we managed to get it knocked back. There was an inspector report on it, and for the time being it's been closed down. But even though both MPs were against it, the Conservative MP and the Labour MP, also all councillors were against it, yet the local authority backed it. And we can't quite understand why that is. And it's that dialogue with the council that's failed, I think.
Obviously the councillor here, they've heard what you said, but that sounds like an issue that's now resolved.
Well, not that it's not yet, because we think they're going to come back and try and put it in again. And is there a Yorkshire-wide policy on incineration in residential areas?
There's no. I have no powers or remit over planning of where these incinerators go. So this is not for me. But what I would say is really important, and I'm glad you've raised it, is air quality, because we know that too many youngsters and people with asthma are really struggling because of our poor air quality. Now we've seen in Bradford the small clean air zone that has seemingly gone very well for Bradford, and no dramas, so all credit to them. But also COVID has helped to some degree because it actually reduced car travel. We have got to turbocharge our delivery on getting people out of their cars, stop clogging up Sewerby Bridge, I'm told that it's not Sowerby, Sewerby Bridge, to make sure that it stays, you know, the air quality can stay good, healthy for generations to come. But I also think When we're looking at the bus network, I think it's important for people to know about their air quality and whether it's good or bad. So we're talking about maybe with the real-time displays, can you put the air quality data on the real-time display so people know, is today an asthma day? Do I need my pump? There's lots of ways to do this to get good air quality, because it's not just about zero carbon, it's particulates as well.
So 2 questions relating to rail. A few years before COVID, Northern Rail introduced a policy that off-peak tickets within West Yorkshire could not be used for a return journey between 4 and 6:30. Now, I think that was understandable at the time because the trains were like sardines at that time. But I don't think it still stacks up now. Trains at that time of day, while well used, have got room on them. And it's deterring a lot of people from using the trains, from making the journey, either by train or making it at all. So I wonder whether you could use whatever influence you've got with Northern, with Department for Transport, who I think would probably be behind it anyway, to get rid of that 4 to 6:30 p.m. restriction on off-peak tickets. And the second question is, after HS2 was abandoned, we got an announcement of electrification from Bradford to Leeds. But of course we need the whole Calder Valley line electrified.
Yes, indeed.
I wonder what you're doing to push for that.
Calder Valley line needs electrification, and so in every meeting, and I've said it today at the Transport for the North, I've said it to Hugh Merriman, I've said it to Mark Harper, I will say it to Lou Haig, because we've got to have a rolling programme of electrification across the country. Regarding this specific ticket, let me take that away. I wasn't across that, so I'm very happy to investigate.
Can you just tell us what the expected cost of achieving net zero in the YWCA area by 2038 will be, and how will the people of West Yorkshire benefit from the drop in CO2 in the atmosphere?
Thank you so much. Well, our climate and environment plan, when I became mayor, would cost 4.4 billion if it was all introduced. But obviously we don't have that sort of funds. We have allocated 40 million for that plan. But this isn't just about what we can do. It's about bringing the private sector with us. So drawing in private sector funding, we think, including mass transit, we've allocated around 200 million to tackle the climate emergency. And we think we can then bring in 100 million of private sector investment alongside it. Mass transit is a massive investable proposition that businesses will want to get involved in, and local supply chains as well. We are the centre of the supply chain of engineering and manufacturing and construction, so I'm really excited about that opportunity. But we can't wait. We have to get to work and be as bold as we can be given the economic climate. But all of you know the impact of the climate emergency on your region here in Calderdale. It's evident every day of the week when people come to me and tell me about their struggles, particularly with flooding. So we have got to get on with it. It's really important for not just me, but the future generations. And I do believe, MPs sometimes operate in cycles of 4 years, but I really believe as mayor, I'm planting trees under whose shade I will never sit. Mass transit, for example, spades in the ground by 2028. We're not going to have the full network. I will probably be in my bath chair looking out to the seaside by the time we've got all of the aspirational mass transit in place. But it's critical that we tackle it.
Day 19 Lost Rivers is a process of rediscovering rivers which have been culverted over. I just wondered if the West Yorkshire Combating self-supports the culverting of them, and if you would like to see more of that, such as the deculverting of a Hebble Brook which runs through Halifax, because these things have been proven to reduce flood risk.
Wow, I'm looking to Jane as chair of the Climate Committee and a leader of Calderdale.
Very interesting question, and not one that I've ever been asked before. The Hebble Brook does, of course, flood down around Dean Clough and the Northgate Leisure Centre to be coming. Watch the space. But the question of why we culverted it in the first place, and some of the buildings that we've done over streams and lost bits of river in Calderdale, I think does actually raise interesting questions of how we actually live with water in Calderdale, how we actually live with water in a positive way, as Tracy said, so people don't feel anxious, they feel safe, but also that we appreciate it. And I do actually want to see salmon and otters coexisting, shall we say, not necessarily eating each other, coexisting in the River Calder. But talk to you afterwards about culverts, yes.
Lovely. Oh, well, on that note, I mean, we can't top otters and salmon, can we? Thank you, everyone. I mean, thank you to Gemma, to the Mayor and her team, and to the Peace Hall, of course. And thank you to you all. We've seen democracy in action. So civilised and articulate and thoughtful and intelligent. Why can't all of
this is the people of Calderdale.
I know.